Hello, Galaxy. I'm Chris Pirillo. You've tuned into another live edition of the Locker Room Daily Report, or TLDR for short, or at least it was live, streamed on live.pirillo.com, as you can see here. We have game developers and gamers and gaming. I've also got my new 3D print going because the previous one failed. The previous one went really well to the point where I wanted to print it again. And when I printed it again, that's when things got a little messed up. So anyway, welcome in. Thanks for joining us. And if you cannot join live, then all these broadcasts are being saved for posterity in at least one YouTube channel. Whether or not that gets converted into a podcast, I don't know. I feel that there's certainly a distinct possibility that with YouTube changing everything that's going to be changing, being able to say, all right, this channel is where we upload podcasts, maybe there's greater degree of visibility for TLDR in the legacy channel. I'm joined tonight by Glendon. Cena is listening. He got caught up in a few things, which is fine. I've got a few news stories for you, but before I show those or we dive into that, I want to show something else that I was thinking about today. As I was driving, doing IRL in the car. I thought, I wish there was like a news ticker, a live news ticker of sorts, not like the ticker that I have going on right now to say, hey, TLDR is about to happen. Make sure you tune in, set reminders, yada, 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 6 p.m. Pacific, at least on weekdays. On the weekends, 6 p.m. Pacific, it'll be a different kind of TLDR. I don't know if we'll be able to cover a lot of tech news because a lot of tech news doesn't necessarily drop over the weekend. So I did something where I set up a bot on Discord and fed it RSS feeds. And I finally found a bot that worked really well, or at least well enough. There aren't a lot of bots on Discord that handle RSS, unfortunately. But I thought my use case would be to create some kind of feed that was dynamically updated. So the bot that we're currently running has a few common tech news RSS feeds pumped into it. And every 10 minutes, because that's the lowest option I could set, otherwise I would have chosen something like 5 minutes, not to say that tech news is constantly breaking. But every 10 minutes, it pulls for a new item in the various feeds. So currently what you see here on the right directly underneath me is the Ready bot, which is a feed reader effectively, pulling in a news feed from Hacker News about, it's a Tech Dirt article. UK proposes even more stupid ideas for directly regulating the internet. And so this item, this little box here on the feed, the hope would be that I'd be able to keep it up on the screen during the live broadcast 24/7 so that the latest tech news always pops in amongst the programming and the game playing and the chatting and the geeking out. So that's the idea behind it, and it's been steady and regular enough with a lot of that. So I'm really happy that it worked well enough, and now we're looking potentially for other general tech RSS feeds to throw in there, if only to make sure that we've got a wide array of coverage. I mean, a lot of this is, many of the feeds that I use are common enough that you either know of the publication or you've heard of the publications that these sites or resources link to. If you hear my fans spinning in the background, usually this happens on the first few layers for cooling purposes. And hopefully, like I said, my second print will turn out just as well. I plan on showcasing that it's basically a He-Man print and place figure, available for free on printables. And I printed it overnight. It turned out well, minus a fused arm. And that's where I thought I'd print it again in a slightly different filament color, just to see if I could get something a little closer to Faker, which was the model that it is, Faker, the fake He-Man. That was an original or a vintage figure back in the day, certainly. Anyway, so those are some updates. I'm gonna so when you see that tech news, pop in or something that looks a lot like that, I've got a screensaver running behind it, so it is dynamic, even when the feed isn't necessarily updating. That, by the way, is also in the Discord server. So that's a separate channel. That is the tech feed, as opposed to tech news, which is what we're going to be pulling from when we cover the articles as were found today. And again, if you find anything, feel free to put it in there, something of interest, because otherwise everyone's going to forget about it. Like, put it in there. Like, you don't even have to ask. Put it in there, and hopefully we'll see something, or may not have seen it before, and potentially be able to cover it. And that, again, is an open channel in the Discord server. So I'm going to remove that, if only to pull up the first article for today. Apparently, I thought this was kind of interesting. Microsoft initially had a problem with Minesweeper, and not a problem with code, but specifically because they did not want the game to be bundled with Windows, because it was a distraction. So it's interesting that Microsoft has come from not wanting the Minesweeper to be included within Windows to basically having the Xbox. Isn't that? I just think it's hilarious. You know what else is hilarious? We got a raid. Thank you so much, Zolan. Appreciate it. The Zolan. The Zolan has been in here before, or at least the live stream. He was in here a few weeks ago, he was setting up I think it was a pie, not baking, not cooking, but like a retro pie for retro gaming. Mm-hmm. The Zolan, welcome in. I'm not sure if you set context for what I'm doing here with 24/7 stream. Oh, he's going to be playing KSP2 tomorrow. And that's potentially in his channel. And of course, he, as well as everybody, is welcome to join this 24/7 arcade stream. Easy to do. Maker Viking, funny to see you here. Huh? Haven't heard from you in hours. Maker Viking had stopped in and said hello a little earlier. Happy to see you, fellow geeks. Welcome in. Hope everything in Zolan's stream went well. You raided over so you can get homemade Italian food. It's a good thing. And if I had a choice between doing this or maybe getting homemade Italian food, I'd probably choose homemade Italian food. Although I did just make a burger, so I'm kind of full right now. I'm set, and washing it down with decaf espresso. And I'm probably already at my limit for the daily decaf espresso. I'm not that I feel the jitteriness of a decaf espresso, but I can usually feel like, okay, I'm starting to feel a little different. It's time to cut myself off. So anyway, thank you again for the raid. Thank you for bringing people in. Hopefully, again, you set context that this is now a 24/7 Geek Out. You're welcome to join with any kind of geeky activity. You all already know about the 24/7 Maker Deck channel, which is a virtual makerspace. This channel here is now just it's a Geek Out. Programming, development, playing with hardware, playing with software, video games, talking about tech news, covering tech deals. We got it all. So I'm thinking we should rebrand it to UHF at this stage. Tomorrow will be KSP2 and Puppy, so I guess we're getting a Puppy Cam. We did have someone else. Eddie had a Puppy Cam briefly the other day. And I think he tried to get one set up again this morning, too, on the stream. So it was kind of fun. So, yes, we have tech and dogs. Quite an eclectic mix. I was just beginning to share the today's Bits Own news from around the web. There's a book that effectively had been written and talking about convincing early Microsoft back in the 90s to sell games. And apparently Microsoft was the battle. This was a time waster, right? And Microsoft didn't want that. Microsoft didn't want a time waster. They were selling productivity. So it didn't make sense to have time wasters. You know what? I don't necessarily blame them. You know, back in the day when I was just kicking off Locker Gnome, I didn't really spend a lot of time doing games or covering games. I did every so often, but not as a practice, right? I looked at freeware games and I shared freeware games or interesting games that I found fun or visually compelling, PC games by and large at that point, but never really, talked about gaming at least at this level. But Minesweeper was my kind of game. I remember playing that on Windows 3.11, I think is what it was. And there were no instructions for it back then. I'm like, what is it? How do you play it? Like, oh, you do this and then you do that and then you press this. And I had our mouse had 3 buttons and I figured out how to use the middle button. I'm like, oh, okay. I use it this way and then I use it this way and then it works like that. Oh, nice. That's how I learned how to play Minesweeper. I guessed. That's typically how I learned how to use software, as I just guessed. So the funnier thing is, to this day, I do still play Minesweeper, and I don't know how I found it, but on on Android at least, there is effectively a vintage Minesweeper clone. You can play Minesweeper, like the classic Minesweeper, on your phone. I can't believe I didn't hit a bomb there. I knew I had to hit a bomb there. But you can. The nice thing, you can continue with this clone. With you earn coins. You don't have to pay anything. It's not like a pay for play. Very easy, very simple, and it looks exactly like the vintage or classic or retro version of Minesweeper. So this, I don't keep mini games on my phone because I don't play mini games. Hey, why am I not? Can I not? Does not want me swiping there. I don't keep a lot of games on my phone, but when I do, they're ones that I can pick up and put down really easy. And Minesweeper is like one of those types of games, just kind of helps pass the time. Love it. And so that is, I don't have a games folder on my Android device. I know many of you do, if you even keep folders, but I've been thinking, okay, maybe I do need to, try to find maybe some other retro style games to play on Android. I do have the new version, or at least the current version of Tetris on there, and I've got crosswords, and I've got like something I haven't even played yet called Word Crush. But I don't like some of these games because they haven't been updated or they don't look very nice on my screen. It's the one thing about Android devices. There's so many screen sizes that unless developers have optimized their games for those variety of screen sizes, they just don't look great. Minesweeper is an exception to that. Minesweeper's got that retro feel, so it doesn't need to stretch the whole screen to look good. So anyway, did you play Minesweeper growing up, Glendon?
I did. It was probably one of the first modern computer games that I wanted to say that I've played, if you would say modern. In school, I think it was on Windows 95, whenever my school finally had computer labs around that time. And of course, everybody was on there, and we looked and we found Minesweeper, and then we always ended up getting in trouble for wasting time trying to play Minesweeper. But yeah, of course I did. It's a good time waster, like you said, and kills productivity. I can see why they didn't want it in there originally.
So this is how things change, right? They change from the ground up. Very, very rarely the top down. I mean, they can, but it's I'm glad it made it in, right?
Yes,
because it ushered in, what might now be, a pillar in the gaming industry, right? Microsoft, Xbox. In fact, I would go as far as to say Microsoft's probably more well-known, yes, for Windows, but more for Xbox and than Windows. All right, let me put it this way. I think the affinity for Xbox is stronger than the affinity for Windows, or it certainly is. I would agree. Solitaire, I learned how to play on Windows as well.
I did too.
Wouldn't have happened any other way. So yeah, that's isn't that funny? So apparently there's going to be a whole book, or there is a book that if I scroll up to get to the link, not to make everybody dizzy, it's pre-purchase, or it's available for pre-purchase. Minesweeper. This is a Kickstarter, so there's a variety of books available on this Kickstarter. There's even one about Parappa the Rapper, so stories about Parappa the Rapper, Minesweeper, Animal Crossing, the story about that. Oh, Kelsey Lewin is writing that one. Nice. So yeah, the link to this is in the Discord server. Under all these links that we're going to be sharing are on the Discord server, so you don't have to miss a moment at all. The next one I thought I'd share is from Beta News, which I'm going to be honest, I this hit my automated feed today. Didn't think much of it, and I checked the homepage. I'm like, oh, Beta News. I haven't been here in like eons, and I used to check Beta News like religiously, like all the time. And this was what hit my radar was specifically if you want to check out Windows 11 Moment 2. So this would be like the next quote unquote big release of Windows 11, or like where they're releasing a whole bunch of features. I believe it's going to be staged later this year. You can sign up for the preview on Windows if you just become a part of that tier. I'm currently only running one of my PCs on the beta of Windows 11. I'm not running this. I wouldn't consider the release preview channel to be alpha, but I would definitely call it pre-beta. I wouldn't put it on any production machines. But if you did want to take a look at what was coming down the pike, then that might be interesting for you to look at. I don't know if I was that impressed with anything that was called out specifically in fixes or what they're adding. No major changes. I think the next major change, at least as far as my use case would be concerned, is when they basically reboot the Windows Explorer and eliminate legacy code, Cruft. That's been needing to happen for quite some time. Yes. What concerns me is when I went to the front page of Beta News, it was like on mobile, a lot of the applications, a lot of the what was being advertised was an advertisement. Like is in the articles were advertisements. Yeah, and I'm just like, it just looked really weird. Like nothing here reminded me at all of what Beta News used to be. Like, look, Coach Me, your personal board of directors worth $28 free for a limited time. The business data at risk from oversharing. Like, it's just cloud security for dummies. It's wow. I don't know. It was just.
Yeah, it looks like an advertisement hub.
Yeah, I mean, Beta News used to just be different. Like radically different. I used to check Beta News daily because there was always like software updates, like version updates for various software that I might use, right? And in fact, they still have the file forum downloads in the sidebar showing like, here are the latest things for the latest, HW info or camera bag or Windows FX or Microsoft PowerShell for Windows. But that's how I used Beta News by and large, was to keep track. And this is, we're talking 25 years ago. So it's good to see Beta News kicking around, but honestly, it just feels like it's a shadow of its former self as far as the content's concerned.
Right.
But that was the thing that made me sad. So are you going to be installing the preview? Do you install the beta?
No. I'm occasionally I'll do the preview if I see or read notes of what's going to be in it or what kind of update. I haven't even done that in a good while. Now on the Xbox, I do.
Oh, you do on the Xbox?
I do on the Xbox.
Why on the Xbox?
I don't know. It's just on there. It seems like I get more excited about the updates because they're more upfront, and you can tell, the changes in the UI a lot easier than you can through Windows, and the experience seems to be changed dramatically more. But I'm on part of the preview team for Xbox for sure.
Yeah, NeoWin. I'm sorry. Let me thank Fox. Is that Fox Art the Best? If I said that handle wrong,
Foxes
I apologize.
Are the best.
Yeah, thank you for the follow. And Yasir, NeoWin has kept up with the times. NeoWin is definitely up there. And NeoWin survived. NeoWin was one of the first. And one of the longer standing Windows like blogs, basically pre-blog. Mm-hmm. This was a website that existed back then, like much like Locker Room used to be that, right? We used to have articles, we used to have writers and contributors. Not to say it couldn't ever return to that, but how do you do that in this day and age, where Chat GPT takes over, right? And unless you have something unique to say, and unique angle, and a unique way of covering it, someone's already covered it. A bigger outlet's already covered it. That I think is what happened to Beta News. They couldn't keep up. They just don't have enough contributing staff or a managing editor that could steer, what was going on. Yeah, that was Locker Room back in the day. And honestly, we had a great editor, but not necessarily a technical editor, more of someone who can make sure that what you wrote was correct, but not necessarily a geek who could assign stories to contributors. If we had something like that, somebody like that, it would be entirely possible that Locker Room could have survived, at least as far as the articles were concerned. Yeah, that's something that I brew on. Like, yeah, it's not practical.
Yeah.
Not anymore. Otter's Danger Den, hello. Well, especially in the day and age of something like a Chat GPT, where people, writers can just crank them out. Like, there's no you train it to something and crank out articles left and right on news, right, and then edit from there. Then you may have some kind of direction, but at that point you're just as well off doing something more like a meta filter and just answering questions and then blogging what questions are being answered, and then hope for search engine traffic, which is what a lot of these websites do, right? If you go over to, let's say, Android Police, right? A lot of the articles, or even 9 to 5 Google, if it just jumps out, it's like, why are they writing this article? It's search engine traffic. It's the thing that draws people in. The news does not generate revenue. That's not what generates the revenue. What generates the revenue is more the help and the how-to stuff. So writing help and how-to, that could work. Yeah, that would be, if Locker Gnome were to effectively reboot like that, it would have to be more of a help, a how-to, something like that. Anyway, so that was my little side jaunt after I saw that article come up from Beta News. This is not exactly tech. I just thought it was kind of fun to throw in. According to the FDA, oat, soy, and almond drinks can keep calling themselves milk. So, sorry, not to flip back there. I've been saying this for a while. It's milk. Come on. It's just milk. Nut juice. No one's going to buy nut juice, but they'll buy milk. So I'm glad to say that. I'm glad to say that it's milky good, milky yumminess, milky deliciousness.
I do like soy milk.
You like I Am milk?
Yes.
Good to know. Good to know. Oh, sounds like Diana and Jedi are on. Just heard Jedi say, Mom. I didn't even hear them. They're all stealth-like. So anyway, yeah, I thought I'd throw this in there because it hit my radar. I'm like, okay, this is a debate for some people. Like, it's not milk. Yes, it is. No, it's not. Yes, it is. It is milk.
FDA says so.
So you're going to have to give it up. 24/7 Twitch stream of AI-generated celebrities is even weirder than it seems. So yeah, apparently this is happening on Twitch live right now. The link is on the or the link is in the come on, pop up. The link is in the description for or the news article on Discord. And so you can go and watch it directly. Athene AI Heroes 20. It's another. This is a successful 24/7 channel, powered by AI basically, and the whole thing AI. And I think you're going to see a lot more of this coming up. A lot more as people get a lot more technical in working with AI, video, audio, text, training. You're going to see something like this. It's being run by a group that's been called Occult and Pseudo-Religion, which is interesting. What happens when people do something like this but don't let others know that it's AI? What happens then?
Man, that's tough.
I mean, you got to think about it.
Yeah, you have to. I mean,
it's not something that is a theoretical.
What's the
anymore.
context that
It's just they're farting around. I mean, I'd say farting around, right? Just like,
right.
Oh, we can do it for the lulz. But imagine a time where it's not, and
yeah.
It's programmatic. There's something that it is completely programmatic, and it's interesting. It's entertaining. It's unique. It's kind of fun. But you have to wonder, like, where is this going, right? What is this?
At some point, where does it become identity theft?
Well, that's a completely different conversation. That and we're already kind of at that point.
Yeah.
They're training on different notable folks, including folks that we might know. But the AI effectively creating something that previously only human beings could create is where we've wrestled with writing, we've wrestled with imagery, or like say not desktop publishing, but like creative tools like artists, right, being supplanted by computers and technology. And now, it's hard enough to capture attention and momentum in a live stream, but part of that is now powered by AI, or can be, with relative ease. And maybe the hurdle is too high right now, but at some point in the future, it won't be high. It'll be relatively low.
Yeah, for sure.
I thought I shared another link, but I didn't. And I apologize, because this is the link that I was actually meaning to share on Discord, so I'm glad Yasir brought it up. Motorola's latest gadget enables satellite messaging on any smartphone. So it's a Bluetooth gadget. There's like a $5 a month subscription, and you can take it with you anywhere. And it's not tied to your phone, so you can give it to a friend. So this, I think, will work well, and I think it's got a limited shelf life. But for now, I think it's a smart move, especially if you didn't want to buy a phone or an iPhone to have the satellite features or functionality. Being able to have this is a boon.
Yeah, absolutely.
I'm not a user.
No.
It's not something that I'm really going to be, buying into, because I'm never or rarely in the area of not having cell service. Now, if I were to drive cross country or go into, areas that, might not have connectivity, then yeah, this would be almost like an insurance policy. So it's the Motorola Defy satellite link.
For those people that are constantly on the move, does a lot of traveling, that would absolutely be right up their alley. And I could see that as,
especially
a plan B. Yeah, exactly.
I can tell you that something like this would have saved some people's lives.
Yes, it would have.
Easily. This is that's where this technology fits. It's a lifesaver. And it's a type of technology, like I talk about, that it's there and you don't need it until you need it. So I think this is it's a pretty big win, especially for those who are carrying Android devices or iPhones that don't have satellite connectivity right now. That's a huge win. I'm not saying it's going to take away or cut into Apple's sales at all, but if you were consider, I'm going to upgrade to the new iPhone, if only because of that, this could save you some money, could save you some time. And it becomes flexible enough that it's not tied to any particular device. It's a Bluetooth accessory. So yeah, it's got connectivity, eSIM, GPS, GLONASS, Galileo, Bluetooth 5.1, etc. So it would allow you effectively to connect to satellites, and could save your life. And I'm not being flippant there. That is
that's for sure. Just like Yasir is saying there, for hikers, people that are outdoors, absolutely.
Another one, this is probably a smaller one for many of you, but if you were on the fence on jumping into Mastodon, there's a new client on the desktop from the developers behind Aviary that was a Twitter client. Now, you could use the Mastodon client on the Mac as well as iOS or Android. It's okay. There are better versions available for iOS for Mastodon, because you can use multiple clients. For Mastodon on iOS, I'd recommend Ivory. I haven't tried Aviary yet. I haven't picked up an Ivory subscription because I don't use iOS primarily. I use the Mac, and right now, when I need to load the Mastodon client, it works well enough. I don't feel the need to get something else right now. My primary Mastodon experience, all that said, has been in the realm of the web. I use the web interface. I use the advanced web interface. Are you seeing that flicker? You are.
I am.
For some reason, like the new 9 to 5 Mac, it doesn't like something that I have installed, I think, because I try to toggle to the dark interface, and it doesn't like me. And I think the reason why is because all the ads on the page, but I've got another type of ad blocker. So see, some ads come through now,
right?
But the flicker goes away. so I use uBlock Origin. So there's something on here that is interfering with the in the ad blocker that's interfering with the ability to set a dark mode and that weird flicker flashy bug, which they're not going to fix, because like, why would they fix something that was just, well, don't block ads? I'm like, well, of course they're going to say that. Anyway, so it is now available for free. Mammoth, available for free in the App Store, for iOS and or on Mac OS. On Mac OS, I think you're just running the iPad app primarily. The Mastodon app works just as well though, and it is also, like I said, free on the Mac, and you can resize it on the desktop, as well as when you're browsing on it. If you haven't tried Mastodon and you're like, I can't figure it out, your better bet is to download a client that you're familiar with, like whether it's Mammoth, if you're used to Aviary, or it's something that like Ivory, if you're used to Tweetbot. I'd recommend using a client rather than using the web interface, because it's more familiar, or should be more familiar to you in terms of usability over any other option that might be out there, including the default Mastodon app, which is fine. There's nothing wrong with the native Mastodon app. It's just, at least on Android, it's not as good as I found. I use Tusky on Android. It's a little closer to what I might want, or what I might like. But on iOS, yeah, I'd recommend, if you don't understand Android, or if you don't understand Mastodon, get a better client, and that might help you frame it like, oh yeah, I guess it's like Twitter. Oh my God, look, it looks exactly like Twitter. For the most part, it's like Twitter. The conventions might be different, but these apps, I feel, are going to go a long way in helping bring people to, seeing it as a more friendly experience. And the reason I bring this up is because Twitter's melting down. Like, it's happening. It's like, whether you like it or not, whatever you think about Twitter, whatever you think about Elon Musk, this is not going well. Apparently, Jira went down. That's what developers would use. And then Slack has been nuked, and that's what people use to communicate in the back channel. So everyone is barely working. That's the quote we're getting. This was posted by Casey Newton and Zoe Schiffer from The Platformer, and then it was shared on The Verge. But yeah, anyway, so it's just, we didn't pay our Slack bill. One employee wrote, now everyone is barely working. Pennywise, pound foolish. Another worker called the disappearance of Slack the proverbial final straw. Oddly enough, it's the Slack deactivation that has pushed me to finally start applying to get out. So, yeah, I feel like I'm not even, this is just, it's baffling to me how someone could be so clueless. I mean, you can't take away the back channel that people use for communication. Like, that's just, it's the backbone.
Yeah. It's the foundation. I mean, how else are they going to be able to perform their duties and tasks and know what's asked of them if there's no way to communicate?
Well, this is like a, kind of like I'd assume like more of the water cooler kind of experience. And when you cut that off, you do lose that velocity around, okay, who's doing what? What's going on? Where's this happening? Yeah.
I've had to use Slack before in profession, and without it, I would have been lost, because that's your primary form of communication.
Well, at least with your coworkers and the people that you're working alongside. So yeah, that's
for people that were working with me or on a project. If I was a lead, that was how I would communicate and relay information to them.
I've been warning people, as much as you use Twitter and you've used Mastodon, let's say, as a backup, you need to transpose that. I still use Twitter, yes, but it is not, I consider it kind of like legacy more so than primary. I just, it's not smart to double down on a platform that has gone a radically different direction and has just, well, whose owner has undermined it at just about every turn.
Right.
So this is it's interesting because Twitter hasn't like exploded, right? It's not down, but like there have been more than enough bugs and issues and cracks, you know, that are just going to grow in size and in enumeration. Like is as things happen, one thing on top of another, on top of another, on top of another. That's the compounding this is just it's potentially catastrophic for Twitter.
Yes.
And it's depressing for me to say, because as I've said it before, you know, it was my go-to network. Legacy's one great one-word summary for Twitter these days. Well, it is, and it is for me, but so many people still use it as though everything was fine. It's not fine. It hasn't been fine. It's not okay. It won't be okay. Like, things are bad, and you may not see it right now, but that's where I'm saying this is your warning. Like, set it up as a backup, fine, but don't do it as a primary. Don't do it as don't keep it as a you know, your go-to necessarily. I don't use it as much anymore. I really don't. I don't scroll my native feeds. I check every day. I check notifications. If I scroll on anything, more often than not, I've got my my Mastodon open, because that's how I stay connected. And it's not even to all the people that I know. It's like, if I'm not going to see their tweets anyway, or knowing full well that at some point in time I'm going to log in and everything's going to be gone or different, what's the point of spending that much more time on it? And I do spend time on it. So it's not me saying get off of it immediately. I'm just saying start treating it like a backup, because that's exactly what it needs to be. And that's exactly the way it's going. It's just a matter of time before something big happens. Because I just cannot see. I cannot fathom the way this has been going. Cannot fathom how it's going to upright itself. How is treating the network like this going to improve? How is treating employees like this going to improve anything? How is making all these changes going to make things better? How? Blue checks for everyone? I'm like, no, that wasn't. That's a completely different disaster to talk about. Yeah, I don't know. It's frustrating to see every single time I see this. Is like, you know, I don't want it to die. I don't, but I guarantee
it's inevitable.
The moment something, because it's happened, in London, I don't disagree. Every time there's been a big thing, a big shift with Twitter, right, Mastodon user accounts spike. So like you can just tell, like engagement always goes up after the fact, and and getting people over that learning curve. I'm just telling you, it's not that hard. It really isn't. To the point where I wish it was more cost effective to set up like a locker gnome instance. People have offered to like volunteer for it, but with that are like major caveats, like including like moderation, including hosting costs, including maintenance, including documentation and making sure you're covered with policies, like legalities, etc. And that's just not, it's not as prevalent as it could be. And you've got larger server instances that are getting crunched, that need help because they're not able to pay the bills, right? They can't pay for them. Like, well, you know, I don't want to enter into a that kind of situation where I just get crunched. As much as I love the idea of it and being able to host my own instance, it's not anywhere near cost effective, at least as far as running my own instance and inviting other people to join it. The cost could be just far too great, and there's no easy way of effectively, monetizing it, unless it were to launch as like a Patreon type of campaign where it was like crowdfunded on an ongoing basis. But even then, if someone stops paying, does that mean they lose their account, right? Or they have to move? Right. There, those question marks. I've been more than satisfied with Mastodon, with very few complaints. The engagement has been, I would say, by and large, better. Maybe not in every sense of the word, maybe not all across the board, but for the most part, when I need to share something, I feel I've got a better chance of it getting seen by someone on Mastodon than it getting seen with someone on Twitter. Not just because of the algorithm, right?
Right.
Anyway,
I've still not tried it yet. I know several people that have now, including you.
Well, it depends on how you use Twitter. If you use Twitter as a news source, right, it makes more sense. And I use it like that. I use it to stay in touch.
Right.
And right now, it's okay to straddle both, both fence, straddle the fence, right? Both sides of the fence. But at some point, it's pretty much done as far as that goes. I mean, I just can't see it happening any other way. I just can't with all these changes. I'm shocked that it still stays up. I'm shocked that it's still there. I'm shocked that it still exists and that it's still working, a testament to all the code that went into it. But like beyond that, man, it's telling you. So if it happens, don't come crying to me. Don't say that I didn't warn you, because I could be wrong. And I'd be happy to be wrong. Maybe all these changes for the better. Maybe Twitter needs even fewer engineers. Maybe it doesn't need its platforms to work. Maybe it doesn't need all the servers. Maybe it doesn't need Slack for employees to communicate with one another. Maybe it doesn't need Jira to work. Who am I to argue? Maybe it doesn't. I don't think that's how it. I think Twitter is going to fall very far, very fast, and it's going to happen seemingly overnight. Today, no. Tomorrow, maybe not. But a year from now, I'd be shocked if Twitter it looked anything like what it does today, or works anything like it does today. Shocked. And it may end up having to reboot itself, like reinvent itself entirely.
Yeah.
And which would destroy its entire value prop, right?
Yeah, for sure.
Become what Elon wanted it to be, the X.com. Whether or not your followers continue to follow you there or whatever, but it's a completely different experience from top to bottom. Remains to be seen. But Twitter, as we knew it, yeah, it's not happening. All right, we got some tech deals.
We do have some tech deals. The first one that I have here, if you want to start from the top and go down.
This is in Discord, everyone.
Yep, in Discord under sales, deals, and discounts. It is the Samsung Evo Select micro SD card. This particular one that I have pulled up is for 128 gig. It is the A2 rated. So it is the faster of the options that you can get with the SD cards. 33% off, only $13.49. So I mean that's a steal. But look again at the prices for the 256 and the 512 as well. 256 is on sale right now, 30% off for $27.94.
Oh, yeah.
And then the 512, 6% off, not as big, but still under $50.
I guess I don't really have much use for micro SD at this stage.
Yeah, I use it for my camera, and then my Steam Deck for more storage. So I can put certain games on one and then put a little label on it and show which one it is and so on. But yeah, anybody that has any need for some micro SD storage right now is a good time to get those at any price range and at any capacity.
Good to know. All right, next one is Anchor USB-C. It's an adapter.
Yeah, it is a charger.
Oh, a charger.
Yep, it is the 65-watt charger, so you could use this for an iPad, a Mac, whichever you prefer. It's got it listed here: MacBook Pro, Air, Galaxy, Dell XPS, Notes, iPhones. 65-watt charger. Normally it's $49.99, 30% off at $34.99, which is a great price considering what you would pay, if you went to an Apple store and wanted to pick up the 65-watt charger.
Yeah.
You're going to pay double that. So anybody looking for a backup or an extra or one to travel with, this is a really good deal at $34.99.
Good to know. I see, that's the thing, is I tend not to buy ahead for electronics. Tends not to. I tend to buy when I know I need it.
Yeah.
You know?
I have had a tendency of losing chargers whenever I travel or leaving them behind. So whenever I always travel, even whenever I went to Disney, I didn't take my first party chargers with me. I took I took an actual Anchor one with me. Now the next one is a game. I know we do a lot of PC gaming talk on here. We do have console players still, and Gran Turismo is a staple on the PlayStation. Right now, you can get Gran Turismo 7, which is the newest release, for 43% off. Normally, it's $70. Right now, you can get it for $39.99. And this is the physical edition through our Amazon affiliate link. So if you've got a PS5 and you have not yet picked up Gran Turismo and you're interested in it, now's the time to do so, which is effectively, close to half off here.
Mm-hmm.
Because you got to remember, all of these new titles on next gen consoles are $70 instead of $60 now. So anytime you can say,
everything went up.
Yeah, they're $69.99 instead of $59.99.
Wow. Gee, it's making these subscriptions that much more palatable. I tell you,
it is. It really is.
I tell you,
for $20 a month, you can play whatever, as opposed to going out and spending 2 times that for one game.
Unless you really like Star Wars is my exception, right? I can't.
That is an exception.
I can't.
I will always buy that.
I can't wait on that. That's pretty much a given for me.
Yep.
Personally.
Same. And Nintendo first party titles.
Right.
Even whenever they start, or if they start a subscription service like that, I will always get a physical.
Well, they have they've got their Nintendo, what is it, online?
Yeah, it's primarily for just digital downloads or retro gaming. At this point, they don't have a subscription service, and that's part of the reason that I was thinking that you're going to see some integration between Microsoft and Xbox and Nintendo eventually. But yeah, $39.99 for Gran Turismo 7.
Glendon, you also found my watch on sale.
I found your watch on sale.
Totally worth it. Like, even full price, it's been worth it.
Yeah. So, how do you enjoy yours? You
I have the Watch Pro. This is the watch, but even the watch, the regular Galaxy Watch, not the Watch Pro,
right?
Even with another Android device, it's great. Like if you don't have an iPhone and you want a smartwatch, as far as I'm concerned, it's Samsung. That might change with the next TicWatch. I'm keeping a close eye on that, if only to see what do they have to offer that's different from Samsung's in terms of sensors and software and what have you. But it's been great. I mean, at least on the Pro, the battery life is better. But even when I wore like my Galaxy Watch 4, which Diana now has, I was able to get through the day with the battery. And then what I do is before going to bed, I charge it for an hour watching TV, take it off, put it on, and I was good to go. So it was seamless. So I do believe that the Samsung watches are worth their money for smartwatches across the board, whichever size. Just on my experience, no smartwatch, in my humble opinion, has been perfect.
Right.
And I still I'm hoping for a perfect. That's why I'm like waiting to see what happens with the new TicWatch, to see what reviews or reviewers say. But I would find even with me carrying a Samsung Galaxy S22 or 23 Ultra, I may end up wearing, quote unquote, a competitor's watch, because it would be running Wear OS, right? So it'd be Android and have different kinds of integrations. But I'm very much looking forward to that. Also looking forward to whatever Samsung has for the Galaxy Watch 6 as well. But a watch, I feel, is a lot easier to move between than phones for the most part.
Yeah, I would agree with that. So this Samsung Galaxy Watch 5, the 40 millimeter version, is on sale, 21% off. Normally it's $279.99, so $280. And right now it's on sale for $219.97. That's a pretty good chunk, and some substantial savings. I don't know how much we'll see this drop, probably closer to the release or after the release of the 6. It'll fall through the floor.
Yeah.
But until then, you probably won't find it for much cheaper than this, to be honest with you. So if you're in the market for a smartwatch and you are an Android user, like Chris said, this one would probably moves through any Android device as easy as the others, and it's a good deal at $219.97.
Otter's Danger Den found. I don't have a Micro Center near me at all.
I don't either.
But he said that there's some sales going on at Micro Center. 32 gig DDR5 with select AMD CPU in store only. Looks like they've got some sales and discounts there as well. And then Jeff found, and I don't know if this is also on Amazon too. I didn't check.
I looked. I didn't find it.
Didn't find it? Okay,
this looks like it's an open box or a return because it says brown box.
Right. Brown box.
Mm-hmm.
Makes sense. Or it's a generic brown box.
Or it could be, yeah. Since it's coming from CDW, I mean, it's enterprise, a lot of it, so they could have them in bulk. So.
I remember I ordered, one of the first places I ever ordered anything off the internet from was CDW.
Really?
Yeah.
I remember them from ages ago.
I bought
commercials. They were one of the first tech outlets that I remember seeing.
It was what was it? It was a monitor, a 14-inch or a 15-inch monitor, one of the two. 17-inch? Was it my first 17-inch monitor? CRT for sure. But I remember it was a ViewSonic CRT. Was it 17? I can't. I remember I was just like really excited for it. But it was. I remember it being ViewSonic, and I remember using CDW. This is like way back in the day, like like 90s. I was ordering on the internet. It was just so exciting to order something on the internet. Woo yee! So much fun. Now it's like,
Yeah, it's not even a thought.
Not even no big.
Nope. Everyday life.
I remember when 15-inch screens were living the high life.
I remember whenever 17 was.
No. How about? Let's see if you. I'm gonna try to do a sound effect and see if you can guess what the sound effect is. Ready?
It's whenever you turn on the CRT.
Well, you had to do something else with CRTs.
Oh, degaussing?
Degaussing.
Yeah.
Right, that's my degaussing. Really had to do that. Degaussing.
Yeah, I had forgot about that. That was pretty good. I'll give you that one.
It's been years.
Yeah.
I've degaussed. Years. I kind of wonder. No, like my CRT in my arcade, I don't even know if I have access to degauss it directly, but it probably needed a degaussing. Probably. Sounds like the old Max sound would have been.
Yep.
Degaussing.
Had that reverberation in it.
You have a CRT. You still have a CRT.
Remember I still have mine.
The Ultra Sharps. Okay, so those weren't CRT. Were they? I never had two CRTs. I had LCDs. They were powered by dual link DVI cables, and they were two 30-inch Dells. I used on the Mac. So I've actually, my frame rate, of course, has improved. My refresh rate has improved with these newer monitors, but I would say that they're more power efficient, certainly.
Oh, sure.
Or I'd hope. Less resolution, different resolution. It's so hard to remember, like, how big they were and how tall they were. And maybe it's the same resolution, just stretched. I was always more of I'd rather have a square monitor than a longer one, but I got over it pretty quickly. Even having two screens, I don't use them all that often here.
I use my two all the time.
Yeah, I probably need more applications to figure out, which way I'm going. So there's an example of the tech news bot that we got running on Discord. High skilled visa holders at risk of deportation and amid tech layoffs. Oh boy, yeah. If AI wasn't coming after your job, this is the thing that entire tech industry is going to be wrestling with. We're going to be losing talent here in the States, at least. We're going to be bleeding it.
It's sad.
It's frustrating. Frustrating because so many of these layoffs did not need to happen. They just didn't. I mean, usually layoffs only happen because mismanagement, or they're trying to keep workers in check, or
Right.
I mean, there are cases where layoffs are kind of they're absolutely necessary because unfortunately, things happened, right? In industry changes that you couldn't keep up with. That's absolutely happened.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, Intel, I think, has been a victim of that. Easily been a victim to that.
Yeah, I agree with that. I think a big part of theirs was complacency.
Yeah, I mean, just different, just zigging instead of zagging. This story of my life is zigging instead of zagging. That's the story of my life. I live it every day. Well, anyway, so that's it for TLDR. Gonna wrap it up. I'm gonna have to grab this clip from the archive as soon as it's recorded on StreamYard, because I had a slight a different way of the way I recorded it had a little burp. So theoretically, this will be archived, and if it is, thank you for watching. I love you. I appreciate you. And at this point, I'm going to leave you to your own devices, and may the force be with you always. Remember, we're geeking out 24 hours a day, 7 days a week at live.pirillo.com. We'll see you later.